Hello there, lads and ladies. Welcome back finally to another tattoo story time. And today I'm going to be talking about men going their own way. I wanted to get this tattoo, let me show you quickly. It's on the back of my leg, just underneath my octopus. Oh, this is going to be uncomfortable. Oh. There it is. See it? This is Hindu. This is Arabic, and this is Elder Frufnig. This is Norse, basically. The Norse doesn't actually have a translation. Let me explain first. The arrows here are destinations, and here is the ultimate destination. But with each destination, a man must undertake in order to become, basically, it's his rite of passage of becoming a man, basically. So, my idea of getting that was to basically show that on one path that most men take is, in Hindu, is the intelligence. One must learn to better oneself and to better others by teaching them through his stoic nature. And he must have the determination, which is in Arabic, that's determination, or determined, to be able to take the onslaught of what it means to be a man, to take on the do's and don'ts of society, basically, how to keep a household secure and well protected. I feel like that's something an awful lot of men have forgotten over the years, basically, you know. And with the top one, it just reads out the 5 alphabetical letters, MGTOW, or MGTOW. I wanted to get it done because I thought to myself, you know, I am completely monk now at this point. I choose to stave off marriage and children, unfortunately. I feel like it's not that I don't want children. You know, I'd love to have children. It's just, with how modern relationships are in this day and age, like looking at dating apps like Tinder and all that stuff, it's mostly just hookup culture. That's not how you find a wife, and that's not how you rear children up in a society that's already close to being broken when it comes to relationships, really. I mean, even in the court systems in Western society, you know, there's very little cases of men winning court cases when it comes to custody. And even if you do get shared custody, men still suffer the brunt of the force when it comes to child's payments. And that's fine, you know, because the child still needs to be paid for and looked after. It's just the over exuberant amounts of it, basically, especially due to the fact that even prenups in marriage are thrown out half the time in courts. It's just a shame, really, that, you know, an entire system is willing to take care of a woman and their child, but not the male, basically, the male provider in a certain sense, because, you know, you can look after yourself, and that's understandable, but, you know, sometimes even men need help. Even there are those cases where you have unfortunate suicidal cases, really, with certain young gentlemen of our day and age, because they feel like there's no help, and truly there is no help. Like, you can try and sugarcoat it and basically say, oh yeah, there's charities for you. Yeah, they gave you a pat on the back and just say, you know, man up and all that, and then you're all good and done. So I wanted to get this as kind of my nod to my participation within helping men. That's what it is, really, men going their own way. It's not a movement, it's a philosophy. It's basically something that we can latch onto as men to basically help one another, improve our lives, and to basically say, no, I've got more to give, and I've got more out of life that I want to see, basically. I did a little talk with one of my fellow subscribers. I believe he's a subscriber, yeah. And I'm subscribed to him as well. It's his name's basically Chris. If you've heard of him, if you're watching, Chris, I hope you're doing well, and I hope that you're still going strong with the whole thing of getting out the word of trying to get men to take care of themselves better rather than just worrying about like where the next tail is basically, or paying for a single mother who's not going to end up caring about you but her and her own kid. That's another thing really, because my nephew is in a relationship with a woman who has like 4 different kids from 5 different people. And I'm just thinking to myself, really, mate, the only one who's going to hurt at the end of this is you. And he has a child with her, so he's already in the deep end when it comes to that. There's not much you can do about that. Then there's the false claims that women can do against men, which is just really not punished enough in a certain sense. Like, if you don't have evidence, then it just becomes a big farce, really, for men in a court case. You have to have evidence in every way, shape, or form, where women can just claim that it's happened. And it's worse for women that have had it happen, basically, because my mother was abused by her first husband, and I still hate him for that. I really freaking hate him for that. She's gotten over it because she's kind of like, she gives as much shit as he gave to her, basically, so she is fine with it, basically, but I'm not really. I've never forgiven him for that. My second dad basically just was a womanizer, basically, so he went off and just did his own thing with a woman. So I can thank my dad for teaching me that, to be loyal, basically. I never wanted to be like him when it came to women. So whenever he'd ask me, like, oh, have you got yourself a woman yet? I'd say, no, I don't need a woman. That, like, what a woman doesn't define a man, like how a man doesn't define a woman at the end of the day. They have to define themselves. That's what I want to get across. MGTOW's not about hating women, unlike third wave feminism, basically. Feminism used to be about equality, but now it's just completely fuddled, unfortunately. It's completely forgotten that it's now all about superiority. And there are some women that are unfortunately facing the brunt of it when they don't understand the reason why. It's because they've been drip fed an awful bunch of lies and misguided hoo-has about men of today that haven't done nearly as bad as what they've done in the past, basically. And I can definitely say that there are bad people out there, bad men and women, but it's situational and it depends on the circumstances, really. But then again, you can't really say that it's fair for one gender to take advantage of a system that is on its side, basically. It's kind of strange, really, in a certain sense. So I wanted to talk about it today because I feel like it's not talked about enough, and to be honest, it's just pushed to the side, and no doubt YouTube will probably more than likely push this to the side. So then, if that is the case, then I will carry on, basically, because that is what a man does. A man will carry on in silence. He will continue to suffer in silence. But that shouldn't be the case for all men, really. I feel like there should be a place and there should be a space for us to talk and rant and rave about certain things. You know what the most upsetting thing is I heard one time? It was on a Reddit post. This chap, bless him, he was talking to me about an abusive relationship he was in. He loved her so much because he felt like that no one else would love him. So he stayed with her because he felt like this was his only chance of something of a scratch of happiness. And I've told him, mate, it's better off on your own. I mean, it's better to never have loved and be healthy and sane than be abused like that. If that's what you call a relationship, it's not a relationship, mate. He just said to me, I don't know what that is. I don't know what a healthy relationship is, unfortunately. He takes what he has with her as the best he can get, really, and it's just such a shame that she's like really stumped his self-worth down to that degree, basically, and it's horrible. And it's the hypocrisy of it all as well, because when you hear a woman say stuff about this, like, oh, I'm being like emotionally manipulated, people immediately jump on that and say, oh, like, we feel sorry for you, blah 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 blah. But as soon as a man says it, it's like, we don't care. So is it any wonder why an awful lot of people just end it? It's really upsetting, really. It's really upsetting to think about it, really, that somewhere right now someone could be doing that. It doesn't even have to be a man, it could be a woman as well. the important thing really is to just be happy with yourself. Like, I've learned that the hard way, really. I've had 3 relationships, and yeah, you're gonna have an awful lot of people say that, oh, who hurt you? I'm not hurt, clearly. I'm just trying to give out some helpful information to the young chaps that need it, basically, because there are an awful lot of cases where you get into a relationship and sometimes it doesn't go right. There are some cases where the women can be manipulative, and don't even get me started on the whole men can't be great thing, because that's just stupid. That is just stupid. Like, I had someone say to me, like, oh, he's passed out, but he still gets, his thing up, and that means he can still have some control. And I'm like, no, that is just a thing our body does. That blood rushes to the area no matter what. You've heard of morning wood. Like, even when you're sleeping, like a wet dream, it's the same thing basically. It's just the body reacting to blood going to that area basically. It has nothing to do with feeling horny or anything like that. It's just a natural body reoccurrence. And then they claim it's not like great because they will then say, oh well, he wanted it. No, don't ever assume that. What if I assume that of someone else? I'd immediately get thrown away for it. You don't do that. So I just wonder where the double standardness comes from. Like how women are treated basically in courts like, oh, you're innocent until proven guilty, but with men you're guilty until proven innocent. That's an interesting one. That's very interesting how the hypocrisy is switched on its head in certain time periods. And then there'll be people that will say, oh, well, they've deserved it after everything they've put us through. Really? You're going to punish the new generation for something the old generation did? It's the same thing with race as well, like how we can blame like everything on whites, like in the past. Yeah, white people have done some horrible things, but that doesn't mean minorities aren't capable of it as well. That doesn't mean that everyone has the possibility of not being a dick, basically. Everyone has the possibility of being a dick. It comes down to a matter of choice. It's what you do that makes the difference, basically. That's why I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't go out to clubs, I don't hang around groups of people that too much. Most people would call me a NEET. I'm not a NEET. I go out, I exercise, I play a bit of rugby. I'm very social when I want to be. I just have a very short fuse with time wasters, and it's just something that's not going to be beneficial to me. Call me selfish, I don't care. That's how I live my life. I'm healthy that way, and it's good for my mental health. For the longest time, I've been really deciding on coming back to gaming for YouTube, and I've enjoyed it. I've really enjoyed it, and what I'm going to do is actually I'm going to take some time in between uploads when it comes to the gaming. Sometimes you'll see 1 or 2 drops, maybe once or twice within 2 or 3 days, depending on whether or not if I've got an idea for a project and I want to do some editing. Because I do feel like my edits are kind of plain, but they kind of spice up the video a little bit. So it's not just like these videos where you get to sit and hear me ramble. There's some interesting little things along with the beauty of the game itself. So the problem with it was that it was so hard to edit when I first started out, and it still is a bit hard, like having to perfect certain editing techniques and like do audio transfers and line certain things up with overlaps and stuff like that. So it's draining, basically. It's very draining, to be like your own editor, your own uploader and all that stuff. People don't talk about how difficult it can be to be a YouTuber. So I kind of wanted to take that time a couple of years back to take a break from gaming for a bit and focus on my mental health, really, because I feel like not an awful lot of people see that. I used to be quite stubborn and think, oh no, I'm fine. I wasn't fine, basically. I'm going to be honest with you, there were times when I wanted to just turn myself off and just turn YouTube off and just relax and read a book, because sometimes just taking the time for yourself can really make a difference. And it's the same thing with relationships as well. Just because men decide to sit in their car for 5 minutes or tend to work a little bit more, maybe that's the only place where they can find peace. And it's an unfortunate thing to say, because most people will say, oh, what, you don't like your family? Like, you don't love spending time with them? That's not the case. Sometimes after a long day's hard work, the last thing we want to do is come home and then get barraged with, like, why are you out so late, you know, and the kids jumping on you for playing and all that. It's not that you don't love your kids, you love your kids, of course. I don't have kids, but I know for me, if I was working like 24 hours a day a week and all that stuff, I would at least like a little bit of peace and quiet and a little bit of food on the way. And that's something I never understood really. And I hate that. I hate that feminism has turned like the modern housewife thing into a bad thing. Like there are an awful lot of women that will say like, oh yeah, like being independent and having your own job and all that stuff is really great and important. Well, good for you. You've basically mastered the one thing that you meant to do to like take care of yourself. The base one thing, the bare minimum is that you've got a job and you take care of yourself. Good job. You brush your teeth, you wipe your ass and all that stuff. Fantastic. We don't look for that. We don't care about your job as a partner. We care about your femininity, your beauty. It might sound shallow, but that is all we really care about is your beauty, your femininity, and your willingness to be a good mother. And a little bit of cooking on the side is appreciated as well, because what man doesn't like to be doted on? It's the same with women. Women like to be doted on. They like to be told that they're pretty and beautiful, and they love to be appreciated. It's the same thing in a relationship. I don't understand how like relationships can take such a nosedive within only 50 years. And yet, not every single period of relationships are perfect. There's going to be the odd ins and outs between genders, and that's an unfortunate thing. And it's the same thing with our society, how they keep battling one gender against the other, basically. So it's just about high time that we can just say, like, I don't want to do it, you know? Like, what is so wrong with just saying, I just prefer my own peace and company? That's what I've always tried to tell people. I get an awful lot of people come to me and say, like, oh, my relationship's going bad, like, we're just arguing constantly, and I just think to myself, take a break. And I don't mean, like, Ross take a break, go and F someone else. I mean, take an actual break. I tried that once with a girl. Literally, I came back 2 weeks later to find that she cheated on me because she thought that we were breaking up. And I just told her, like, I just wanted a break so we can breathe. We were literally seeing each other every single weekend and every other day. And I thought to myself, don't you have time for your own family? I said, is there not someone in your family that wishes to see you or spend time with you, rather than just having me in your company all day long? You know, I feel like you need to have other, you know, things in your life to fill you as a person and not just one person in general. So I wasn't really like upset about the cheating. I was just upset that she kind of relied on the company too much. I know that's bad to say because there are some people that really do require like assistance from other people or like encouragement in a certain sense, and that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that, you know, you should be able to be self-reliant in a certain situation where it comes to your mental health and being willing to like learn to say stop, because if you make a mistake once, fine, it's a mistake, but if you do it again and again and again, it's then a decision. So you have to then take the opportunity to basically say no, that's a mistake and I got to learn from it. Which is why I really love my mom and why she's done such a wonderful job with her cigarette addiction when she was younger. She stopped for 8 years at one time, went back to it, and then finally decided to say stop. And ever since 2007, I think, she has not smoked a single cigarette. So for that, I'm very proud of her. It's that type of determination, excuse me, that I wish I could look up to and admire and replicate. And I've done that pretty well, basically, when it comes to my determination. I feel like if I push myself to do something, I'll go and do it. So I can thank my mother for that, really. So I can thank my father for, you know, teaching me about self-reliance and not relying on anybody whilst he went and did his own thing with other women. So, you know, what can I say? He's now with a girl now. Seems lovely enough. It's just, I don't know, I'm just hoping he doesn't break her heart. You know, I'm hoping he, like, learned his lesson and he just doesn't break her heart, because she seems like a very lovely girl. But yeah, it's just a shame, really. It's just a shame how things have turned out. But again, I'm not salty. I'm just glad that I've learned something from it, really. Learn from other people's mistakes so you don't make the same ones, is what I always say. And that's at least one of the lessons I've learned from going my own way as a man, basically, from the philosophy of MGTOW. So, with that, lads and ladies, that has been my tattoo story time. I hope you all enjoyed. I know it seemed like a little bit of a down and out sort of conversation, but sometimes these are things you have to talk about, and I feel like not many people get to hear from the man's perspective, basically. You hear an awful lot of women becoming chameleons, and by the word chameleon, they're like pygmies, and they basically try to talk on men's rights and say like, oh, this is bad, we've got to do something about this and all that. But you don't see the charities to assist with it. You only see like the odd couple, like Movember, and that's a very small charity, very small compared to certain charities. Like I think Battersea, which is a dog shelter, and I donate to them regularly every month, like 10 quid or so. They, I think, generate more money because animals are innocent. You know that, like, of course we wouldn't not donate to animals because they, in one way, shape, or form, fill our lives with this type of role of generosity and innocence and loving care, basically, and that's understandable. So it's kind of upsetting to look at the same situation when it comes to women and children and men, like how women and children are seen as precious for being alive, whilst men are only seen as precious if they can offer something. So it's kind of a depressing thought when you think about it, really. But that is the unfortunate reality that modern generation men have to face, really. And if you can't get your head wrapped around that, then you will not go far. You need to be able to have a stout heart and take the words that come to you, because that's all they are, just words, and all that stuff. Women deal with emotion, men deal with logic. That's how it's always been and always will be. But on the mass, it's not always the same. There are odd few people out that will decide on their own the right from wrong, and they will make their own mistakes. It's just whether or not if they learn from them. And I hope you all learn from your mistakes as well. Like, as I know for matter of fact, I've learned from my mistakes and I've bettered myself because of it, basically. And I've basically learned to cut out the people in my life that are not good for me. So, call me a loner or not doesn't mean I'm antisocial, doesn't mean I'm a sociopath, it just means that I prefer my own mental health intact, thanks. Especially in this modern day and age. Alright, well, with that, lads and ladies, I thank you ever so much for watching, and yeah, I guess the next time you'll see me, you'll be hearing my voice on good old Elden Ring. I'm really enjoying it so far. I've gone through so many bosses, and there's going to be a couple of rages coming up, so look forward to that. I'm not going to look forward to it, so it's going to be fun editing it. Alright. Take care, lads and ladies. I'll see you all next time. Take care, my friends.